Yeah, Weege show them how to race. As you can see, US Bank Stadium, it has become a construction site. They're tearing down and they're headed to AT&T Stadium in Arlington next weekend. As you know, Weege show is brought to you by Racetech and their gold valves. This track was super gnarly. Jason Anderson said his speed was good, but more importantly, it was about just staying focused on a track that was super tough. If they practiced on tracks like this during the week, Anderson says they probably wouldn't make it to the weekends. That's how tough this track got. Real East Coast dirt, and it did affect the proceedings. I'm gonna try to walk down to the pits and see if anybody's left. I seriously doubt it. The race ended an hour ago. We had a press conference, and everybody's probably out of here because it is 10 degrees outside. So they're packing up, and we'll see if we find anybody in the pits, any atmosphere, or you're just gonna be stuck talking to me. Yeah. So I braved the frozen tundra, and I shot my video, and for some reason, it rendered in super fast forward. I'll show it to you. And now I can wrap up my thoughts on the rest of this event, brought to you by Racetech and their gold valves. That at least pumps me up a little bit. Look, we returned to East Coast conditions, and everyone wondered if it would provide a boost for some riders. But the true shakeup actually ended up being to the riders who were fast all year and were still fast on this night. It just didn't show in the results because Chase Sexton, this is one of the most obvious, most clear. He was going to win the race wins ever, and with 2 minutes to go, he's got the event in hand, and he crashes all by himself. Oh, Chase Sexton losing traction at the wrong time. The same types of crashes we've seen with Sexton throughout his 450 development, but this one really hurts. Although luckily not that bad physically, I actually stopped by the Honda guys in the cold with the footage that didn't work. And Shane Drew, the longtime suspension and chassis guru over there, said, "What's hurt?" He's extremely pissed. That's how he described it, and significantly banged up, but they believe no significant injuries for Sexton, who had the win in the bag. He had pulled away just enough from Jason Anderson, who was good as usual, but Anderson inherits the lead, and that's actually back-to-back wins for Anderson, and he's the first one to win 3 races this year. Eli Tomac was also fast, but he got a bad start this time. And if you're going to get a bad start, you're probably going to see Dylan Ferrandis back there. That's his teammate. And Ferrandis, this is rare, but he got sideways on the whoops and came right into Tomac's line and knocked Tomac down. Tomac was able to rally from last to 6th. So that's the break Anderson needed, both to get the win tonight and to make up the points he needed on Tomac. It's only 3 points between Anderson and Tomac in the standings now. So the bad racing luck that Anderson had with a couple of incidents out of his control early in the year flipped back Tomac's direction now. But they're still the top 3 guys, really, if you look at it. But there is a slight sign of life, and I mean a pulse. I mean, he's still in the hospital. It's stable but still critical, or critical but still stable for Cooper Webb, who is at least better. He was better on this night. He got a whole shot, and it was kind of the old Webb playbook. Whole shot, stay in there, and then find something in the last couple of minutes. He did that. Now, look, he wasn't good enough to hold off Sexton. He wasn't good enough to hold off Anderson. Malcolm Stewart also went by, and at one point it looked like Marvin Musquin was going to get him, but he hung in there, as Webb does. And then Stewart went down, and then, of course, Sexton went down, and he ends up second, and he was only 1.9 seconds behind Anderson, who I think was managing things a bit on a very rough track. Anderson said the key to this night wasn't speed, it was keeping that focus. These tracks are so gnarly, and they don't practice on them during the week, and Anderson said if we did practice on these during the week, we probably wouldn't make it to the weekend. That's how tough these tracks are. Now, for Webb, he said, going back to Florida in an Eastern race, that kind of gave him fresh vibes. They had a new setup in the motorcycle, which did help. And we have heard the rumor that his riding coach right now, Michael Byrne, is out of that program. So some big changes for Webb behind the scenes. But it's better. It's better. It's not race-winning Cooper Webb, but he did end up second in the race. He's back within 1 race of series points, 25 down on Tomac, who finished 6th. So it's something. It's a pulse for Webb. Not the complete turnaround in the East, but it was better. And Ken Roxman was better also, but he crashed in the same corner that claimed Stewart. Stewart would come back to 4th. Musquin would hit her at 3rd. Musquin was happy with the riding at the beginning, not as happy as he said in the second half of the race because he got up to Webb, but the whoops were changing and he couldn't quite figure that out. And Webb got away from him, but back 2 podiums there for KTM. That's something in what has been a very difficult season for them. 250 East kicked off, and everyone's goal at the beginning of the series, right, is you can't win the title in the first race, but you could certainly lose it. And no one lost it. They were all consistent. Jet Lawrence did what Jet Lawrence is expected to do, and that's win races. Got around Austin Forkner early and just paced Forkner, just inched away bit by bit. Forkner kept him honest. For Forkner, who had a miserable 2022 season, you will take second all day long, and encouraging for him. His starts were also miserable last year. I believe that traces back to a different clutch when Kawasaki revamped their bike for 21. Whatever they've done for Forkner's bike, it seems to have fixed a start problem. He whole shot the main. He was very excited about that, and said really it was the whoops that were the difference between him and Jet, and he didn't want to experiment in the whoops and maybe take a risk and go down. So that's smart riding by Forkner. He needs that. And smart riding by his teammate Cameron McAdoo in third. He needs that. And Jeremy Martin and RJ Hampshire, Pierce Brown, they were all the fast guys coming in, and they were the fast guys coming out. They finished in the top 6. Styles Robertson looked much improved from last year in his second year, finishing up in 7th. And Phil Nicoletti's back in Supercross, everybody, and he did Phil Nicoletti things. He yelled at Corey Karsten, who got in the way. It's fast lap in qualifying. I was very torn between Phil and the New Jersey's finest Karsten family. He was battling Forkner in the heat race. Forkner jumped into him, and Phil screamed in his face for the heat. So Phil's back, and then Phil rode well in the main. Got 10th. Okay, that's 250 Supercross East, except for one other note. When I shot my video that didn't work, I went over to this corner of the pits that was cornered by the 3D Racing Team. Now, you might not even heard of the 3D Racing Team. It's owned by Bill Dill. 3D stands for the Dill family. You know, the last initial. There were multiple of them that ran this operation. Bill Dill made his money in the family upholstery business in New England. Ran a privateer team for about 25 years. And maybe that's why you hadn't heard of it. Bill Dill never had the goal of spending huge money and winning races or winning titles. He was always supporting the hardworking privateer, often from his native New England area. Last year, we learned that Bill Dill had brain cancer, and if you watched our Weege show, or you can go find it, post-race from Unadilla last summer, we had dinner at the end of the day at the racetrack with Bill Dill. We brought Justin Cooper on over. Bill Dill is salt of the earth. He loves motocross. He loves supporting privateers. We lost Bill Dill on Saturday night. He was actually with his family watching the race when he passed. Oftentimes when someone passes, we say they were fortunate because they did it doing what they loved. And I can tell you, no one loved supporting privateers and supporting motocross and supercross more than Bill Dill, who was a heck of a rider, by the way, in his own right back in the day. And one of his riders, Devin Simonson, came one position short of making the main event. Bill Dill did pass, doing what he loved, and that was supporting privateers, trying to help them make main events in supercross. You will be missed as a great man, Bill Dill, and our thoughts go out to his family. That's the Weege Show. See the 3D Racing Team. Hopefully can make it to the next couple of rounds. Even a personal story there. I do a lot of my work during the week at Bundy Built, which is next door to my buddy's suspension shop where I work, Art of War. And Bundy is another guy, longtime mechanic and engine man in this industry. He's had his health problems this year as well. And there they were, building bikes for 3D Racing this week and going testing on Thursday to prepare for this race. Bill Dill, in his final hours, was still working on bikes, still trying to get his guys to the races. Godspeed. Thanks for watching the Weege Show. We'll see you next week.